he need to retire. You call him? Yeah, get crime scene. She laid out dead now. Told her earlier, call the police.
Today, a family member, a full family, prayed for closure after the murder of a Memphis mother was killed during a fight involving children. The man police have arrested for Tamara Plummer's murder is Gian Davis. He'll be in court tomorrow morning. Fox 13 anchor Jeremy Pierre learned today that Plummer was pregnant with her fifth child at the time of the murder.
Ooh, they shot her. They shot her. The phone camera jerks wildly, catching blurred images of people scattering, running for their lives. For a split second, it steadies on a woman's body crumpling to the pavement, blood already pooling beneath her. This isn't some war zone. This isn't some high-crime area after midnight. This is Quinn Avenue in South Memphis at 7 p.m. on a Thursday evening. Kids were still outside playing. Dinner was still warm on tables. And Tamara Plummer, 39 years old, mother of 4 with a 5th child growing inside her, just took 3 bullets at point-blank range. All because of a fight between children. All because someone decided to bring guns to a fist fight. All because in the heat of the moment, something in Gian Davis's brain switched off, the part that stops most of us from pulling a trigger when we're angry. He walked right up to her, one witness told police, right up to her face and just bang, bang, bang. The video that captured Tamara's final moments went viral within hours. People watched it at work, on their lunch breaks, lying in bed at night. The kind of footage you know you shouldn't look at but can't turn away from. The kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about human nature. What happened on Quinn Avenue wasn't random. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It wasn't gang violence. It was neighbors, parents, people who probably waved to each other while taking out the trash or grabbing the mail. So what happens? What flips that switch in someone's head? What turns an ordinary person into a killer in the blink of an eye? The answer's about to blow your mind. Before she became a headline, before she became that woman in the viral video, Tamara Plummer was just living her life, 39 years old, 4 kids at home, a 5th on the way. Every morning she'd get up, get her kids ready for school, and head to work at the beauty supply store on Jackson Avenue. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody, where customers become friends, where Tamara's laugh could be heard from the back of the store. My sister was a go-getter, says Jimmy Burchett, Tamara's brother, his eyes red-rimmed as he speaks. She was smart, funny as hell, and man, she loved those kids more than anything. Jimmy pauses, swallows hard. Everybody loved her. She's a lovable person. Present tense, 2 weeks after her death, he still can't bring himself to say was. Tamara graduated from Melrose High School. She wasn't rich or famous. She didn't have a massive social media following. She was just a mom trying to make it work in South Memphis, where the median household income hovers around $27,000 a year. But ask anyone in her neighborhood about Tamara Plummer and they'll tell you she was the real deal, the kind of neighbor who'd watch your kids in a pinch, who'd break up fights between teenagers on the block, who'd call out bullshit when she saw it. She wasn't afraid to step in, says a neighbor who asked not to be identified. If kids were fighting, Tamara would be right there, pulling them apart, making them talk it out. She didn't play that violent stuff. Ironic, isn't it? The neighborhood peacemaker gunned down while trying to stop a fight. In her Facebook photos, Tamara beams at the camera, often surrounded by her children. In one, she's at a birthday party, candles reflecting in her eyes. In another, she's making a silly face with her youngest. Normal moments, happy moments, the kind we all take for granted. Until they're gone. The morning of March 14th, Tamara woke up, got dressed, went to work, came home. Just another Thursday. She had no way of knowing it would be her last. No way of knowing that a children's fight would explode into something deadly. No way of knowing that Gian Davis had a gun in his SUV and a history of violence that stretched back to Kansas City. No way of knowing that by trying to protect her kids, she'd leave them motherless. 5 children, 4 living, 1 unborn. now face a future without their mother. All because of what? A neighborhood squabble, a moment of rage, a gun that should never have been there in the first place? Drop in the comments right now, have you ever seen a neighborhood fight escalate out of control? What happened? Because trust me, what went down on Quinn Avenue could happen anywhere, even your block. March 14th, 2024, Thursday evening in South Memphis. The sun's still up, temperature in the mid-60s, kids playing outside after school, adults chatting on porches, dogs barking behind chain-link fences. Just another day on Quinn Avenue. Until it wasn't. It started the way these things always do, with something stupid, something small, something that should have been forgotten 5 minutes later. Kids from Tamara's family, kids from John Davis's family. Words exchanged, shoulders bumped, feelings hurt. The kind of petty drama that happens 1,000 times a day in schoolyards across America. But on Quinn Avenue that day, it didn't stop there. First, it was just the kids yelling, says a witness who lives across the street. Then they started pushing, then punching, and before you know it, the parents are out there too, and everybody's screaming. The initial scuffle, 6, maybe 8 children, quickly drew adults from both families, mothers yelling for their kids to stop, fathers stepping between fighting children, older siblings jumping in to defend younger ones. And then the phones came out. Everybody had their phones up, the witness continues. Nobody was calling the cops. They were recording, like it was entertainment or something. Within minutes, a crowd had gathered. Some tried to break up the fight. Others egged it on. Most just stood there, watching, filming, waiting to see what would happen next. Enter Jayon Davis, 34 years old, father, and convicted felon. In 2016, Davis was convicted of aggravated battery in Kansas City, Kansas, the kind of charge that means you can never legally own a gun again, the kind of charge that should have been a red flag. But on March 14th, Davis wasn't thinking about his criminal record. He was thinking about his daughters in the middle of a street brawl with Tamara Plummer's kids. He came in hot, says another neighbor who witnessed the fight. You could see it on his face. He wasn't there to calm things down. As Davis arrived on the scene, the tension ratcheted up. More adults showed up. The crowd grew. The shouting got louder. The fighting more intense. And somewhere in that chaos, a critical line was crossed. Someone, we don't know who, brought out a weapon first. And once that happened, everything changed. The video footage shows the escalation in real time. What started as a children's fight had morphed into something far more dangerous. Adults squared off against each other. Threats were made. Personal space invaded. The scene on Quinn Avenue had gone from bad to worse. 6 to 8 children locked in combat, pushing, shoving, hair-pulling, punching. Around them, a ring of adults, some trying to separate the kids, others adding fuel to the fire with their own shouting and threats. It was wild, says one witness who recorded the fight on his phone, like something out of a movie. Kids screaming, parents screaming, nobody listening to anybody. The video footage backs this up. It shows a swirling mass of bodies, small ones and large ones, moving like a single organism across the pavement, fists flying, phones recording, voices rising to a fever pitch. And then Tamara steps in. You can see her in the video, pushing her way through the crowd, 5'6", pregnant belly visible under her t-shirt, face set with determination. This is what she does. Breaks up fights, calms things down, restores order. "Get back," she shouts, wedging herself between 2 fighting children. "Everybody back up. Now!" For a moment, it seems to work. The fighting pauses. Bodies separate. A small circle forms around Tamara as she stands in the center, arms outstretched, creating a human barrier. But the pause is temporary. Someone lunges, someone pushes, the fight resumes, more violent than before, and Tamara, the peacemaker, the mother, The woman who's broken up 100 fights before this one makes a fatal decision. She reaches into her waistband and pulls out a handgun. "Back up!" she yells again, this time raising the gun toward the sky. Not pointing it at anyone, not threatening to shoot, just trying to get everyone's attention, to shock them into stopping. It works. The fighting stops. All eyes turn to Tamara and the gun in her hand. What happens next unfolds with horrifying speed. Jan Davis, who has just retrieved his own weapon from his SUV, sees Tamara with the gun. In the chaotic context of the moment, the screaming, the fighting, his own daughter's in the mix, he makes a split-second decision that will change dozens of lives forever. He walks directly toward Tamara. But here's where things get even more bizarre. As Davis approaches Tamara, the video captures something else. Something so out of place it seems almost comical, until you remember how the story ends. Two men are walking toward the crowd. One has a handgun, the other is carrying a sword. Yes, a sword, in 2024, on a residential street in Memphis. "I couldn't believe what I was seeing," says the witness who recorded this part of the incident. "Like, who brings a sword to a street fight?" But that's how crazy it had gotten. People were grabbing whatever weapons they could find. The man with the sword never gets to use it, because all attention is now on Davis and Tamara, standing face to face in the middle of Quinn Avenue. Davis, gun in hand, moving with what police would later describe as an aggressive manner. Tamara, her own gun pointed skyward, not yet aware of the threat approaching her. The crowd, suddenly silent, sensing that something terrible is about to happen, and that it does. Davis raises his gun, points it directly at Tamara, not at the sky, not as a warning, but at her body, at her face, at the mother of four with a fifth child growing inside her. The video doesn't capture what words, if any, were exchanged in that final moment. Did Davis warn her? Did Tamara plead? Did anyone try to step between them? All we know is what happened next. 3 shots, point-blank range, Tamara's body jerking with each impact before crumpling to the pavement. And the crowd, the same crowd that had been so eager to watch a fight, so quick to pull out phones instead of calling for help, erupting in screams of horror. Pause right now and tell me, would you have intervened or walked away? Your answer says everything about who you are. Because in that moment on Quinn Avenue, dozens of adults had that choice. And most chose to watch, to record, to wait and see what would happen next. They got their answer in the form of 3 gunshots and a dead mother lying in the street. Face to face in the middle of Quinn Avenue, Tamara Plummer and Jan Davis. 2 parents, 2 guns. One moment that can't be taken back. The video shows Davis's arm extending, his gun leveling at Tamara's midsection, her eyes widening as she realizes what's about to happen. 1 second. The first shot hits Tamara in the stomach, right where her unborn child is growing. Her body jerks backward, but she doesn't fall. Not yet. 2 seconds. The second and third shots come in rapid succession. Bang! Bang! No hesitation. No mercy. Just the mechanical action of a finger squeezing a trigger. Twice more. 3 seconds. Tamara's knees buckle. The gun she was holding, the one she'd pointed at the sky, not at any person, clatters to the pavement. Her body follows, crumpling like a marionette with cut strings. And then, chaos. Screams erupt from every direction. People scatter, running for cover, for their cars, for their homes. Parents grab children, friends grab friends. Everyone runs, except for 2 people. Jan Davis, standing over Tamara's body, gun still in hand. And Destiny Plummer, Tamara's 20-year-old daughter, who has just watched her mother get gunned down in front of her. What happens next is pure instinct, raw emotion, the kind of reaction that bypasses the thinking brain and comes straight from somewhere primal. Destiny lunges forward, grabs her mother's fallen gun, raises it toward Davis. The video captures her face in this moment, contorted with grief, with rage, with disbelief. This is her mother lying on the ground, her mother bleeding out on the street, her mother who will never see her children grow up. Destiny pulls the trigger. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. The shots go wild, untrained hands, adrenaline pumping, tears blurring vision. But some find targets. Davis takes a bullet, staggers backward, drops his gun. 2 other bystanders are hit, one of them an 11-year-old girl who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. By the time police arrive, less than 10 minutes after the first shot was fired, Tamara Plummer is dead. 3 others, including Davis and the 11-year-old, are wounded, and 2 guns lie on the pavement, both still warm from use. Destiny later tells police the gun went off accidentally, that she didn't mean to shoot anyone, that in the shock and horror of watching her mother die, she simply reacted. But the video tells a different story. It shows a daughter's rage, a daughter's pain, a daughter's desperate, futile attempt to avenge her mother's murder. Too late to save Tamara. Too late to save the unborn child. Too late to take back the 3 seconds that changed everything on Quinn Avenue forever. Blue lights flash across blood-stained pavement. Police cruisers block both ends of Quinn Avenue. Yellow tape creates a perimeter around the scene, around Tamara's body still lying where she fell. Officers move through the crowd, separating witnesses, collecting phones, trying to piece together what happened from a dozen different perspectives. When we arrived on scene, it was controlled chaos, says one Memphis PD officer who responded to the call. Multiple gunshot victims, a deceased female, weapons on the ground, and everybody pointing fingers at everybody else. John Davis doesn't run, doesn't hide, doesn't even leave the scene. When officers approach him, he's sitting on a nearby curb, bleeding from Destiny's bullet, waiting. "I shot her," he tells them, according to the police report. Simple, direct, a confession that will later become the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. But then the lies begin. Davis claims an unknown person handed him the gun just before the shooting, that he didn't bring it to the scene, that it wasn't his. The video proves otherwise, shows him walking to his SUV, reaching inside, coming back with the weapon that would end Tamara's life. Destiny Plummer sits in the back of an ambulance, inconsolable, her mother's blood still on her clothes, her hands, her face. "It went off accidentally," she tells the officers who question her. "I didn't mean to shoot anyone." Again, the video contradicts the statement, shows her deliberately aiming, firing multiple shots. But who can blame her? What would any of us do if we watched our mother gunned down in front of us? By midnight, both Davis and Destiny are in custody. Both have given statements. Both are facing charges that could alter the course of their lives. For Davis, first-degree murder, being a convicted felon in possession of a handgun. For Destiny, reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon. The contrast is stark. Davis remains in jail, no bond set. Destiny walks free the next morning after posting $5,000 bond. 3 days later, they both appear in court for the first time, Judge Karen Massey presiding. The courtroom packed with family members from both sides, tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Judge Massey looks directly at Davis as she speaks. "Mr. Davis, that charge carries with it life with parole, life without parole, or the death penalty." The death penalty. For 3 seconds of rage, for a decision that can never be undone. But here's what makes this case even more gut-wrenching, more tragic, more senseless. Tamara Plummer wasn't just a mother of 4 when Davis pulled that trigger. She was pregnant with her 5th child. 2 lives ended with those 3 bullets. A mother and her unborn baby who never had a chance to take a first breath, to cry, to open their eyes and see the world. The medical examiner's report confirms what family members already knew. What makes this not just murder, but something even more horrific? She was so excited about that baby, says Jimmy Burchett, Tamara's brother. Already buying clothes, already had a name picked out. He doesn't share the name. Some things are too personal, too painful to put into words. As March turns to April, the case moves through the justice system. Preliminary hearings, evidence collection, witness statements, the slow, grinding machinery of a process that can take years to reach its conclusion. Meanwhile, 4 children wake up every morning without their mother. A family plans a funeral instead of a baby shower, and a community tries to make sense of a senseless act of violence that began with children fighting and ended with a pregnant woman dead in the street. All because of 3 fatal seconds that can never be taken back. Within hours of Tamara's death, the videos hit social media. Raw, unedited footage of a mother being gunned down in broad daylight, of her daughter firing back in blind rage, of chaos and blood and screaming. The clips spread like wildfire, hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of shares, comment sections filled with horror, with outrage, with the kind of morbid fascination that keeps eyes glued to tragedy. "I couldn't stop watching it," admits one Memphis resident who saw the video on Facebook, "even though I knew I should, even though it made me sick to my stomach. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion." For Tamara's family, the viral spread of her death added a cruel layer to their grief. Not only had they lost a daughter, a sister, a mother, they now had to contend with strangers watching her final moments, commenting on them, sharing them, turning her death into content. Some platforms removed the footage, others let it stay up. The internet never forgets, and somewhere those videos will always exist. A digital monument to 3 seconds of violence that destroyed multiple lives. Meanwhile, the practical realities of death crashed down on Tamara's family. Funeral expenses, burial costs, 4 children who suddenly needed not just emotional support, but financial help. A GoFundMe page appeared. "Help lay Tamara to rest," the headline read. The goal? $15,000 for funeral expenses and immediate support for her children. Those children, the oldest 20, the youngest just 7, now face a future without their mother. No more birthday celebrations, no more school drop-offs, no more late-night talks or Sunday dinners or Christmas mornings with mom. And the 5th child, the unborn baby who died with Tamara, never even had a chance to experience any of those things. But the trauma extends beyond Tamara's immediate family. Think about the witnesses, the neighbors, the children who saw a woman die violently in their own neighborhood. Psychologists call it community trauma. When an entire neighborhood, an entire social group is affected by a violent event, the ripples spread outward, touching lives that weren't directly involved, but are forever changed nonetheless. Changed by what they saw, by what they heard, by the knowledge that on any given day, on any given street, a children's fight can escalate into murder in the blink of an eye. Right now, tag someone who needs to hear this story. This could save a life, because the next Tamara Plummer, the next Gian Davis, could be in your neighborhood, on your block, in your family. Neighborhood disputes that escalate to violence often begin with minor conflicts that spiral out of control when effective conflict resolution mechanisms are absent. In this case, what started as a disagreement over property boundaries or perceived disrespect transformed into a deadly confrontation. These situations typically involve a gradual escalation pattern where each interaction becomes increasingly hostile until violence erupts. The presence of firearms significantly amplifies the lethality of these conflicts. When guns enter emotionally charged confrontations, the consequences become potentially fatal. Research shows that disputes where firearms are present are far more likely to result in death than those without. Guns transform momentary anger into permanent tragedy as they allow for lethal force to be deployed in an instant, often before cooler heads can prevail. The bystander phenomenon observed in this incident reflects a troubling social trend. Multiple witnesses recorded the confrontation on their phones rather than attempting to intervene or de-escalate. This digital detachment creates a psychological distance where observers become documentarians rather than active participants who might prevent violence. The compulsion to record tragic events rather than prevent them raises profound questions about our collective responsibility toward one another. Communities caught in cycles of violence often experience a normalization of conflict where retribution becomes expected. Each violent incident creates ripple effects through families and neighborhoods, potentially triggering further violence through retaliation or trauma responses. These cycles become self-perpetuating when violence is seen as a legitimate problem-solving method or when legal systems fail to provide adequate resolution. Several interventions might have prevented this tragedy. Early community mediation could have addressed the underlying dispute before positions hardened. Effective gun safety laws and enforcement might have limited access to firearms in volatile situations. Community violence intervention programs that identify and mediate neighborhood conflicts have shown success in similar contexts. Mental health resources for anger management and conflict resolution skills could have provided alternative pathways for addressing grievances. The tragedy also highlights the need for bystander intervention training that empowers community members to safely interrupt potential violence. Creating a culture where intervention is expected rather than passive observation could save lives in similar situations. This incident ultimately reflects broader societal challenges: the erosion of community bonds, easy access to lethal weapons, insufficient conflict resolution resources, and the growing tendency to document rather than prevent tragedy. Addressing these interconnected issues requires comprehensive approaches that strengthen community ties, provide accessible mediation services, implement sensible gun safety measures, and foster a collective responsibility for preventing violence before it occurs. As the case moves through Memphis's overburdened court system, Jayon Davis remains behind bars, no bail, no freedom, facing a potential death penalty. Meanwhile, Tamara Plummer walks free on a $5,000 bond, returning home to siblings who've already lost their mother. Justice for Tamara becomes the rallying cry at community vigils, but what does justice truly mean when lives are already shattered? Then comes the revelation that changes everything. Police records show 3 previous calls to both households for disputes. Neighbors confirm years of tension between the families: property lines, noise complaints, children's fights. This wasn't the first time, one neighbor reveals, just the first time someone brought a gun. What becomes of the children who witnessed Tamara's murder? The ones who saw her fall, who heard the gunshots, who watched her daughter fire back in desperate rage? Psychologists tell us these moments can embed themselves like shrapnel in developing minds, triggering nightmares, anxiety, and behaviors that echo trauma for years to come. Some questions about that day may never be answered. Did Davis plan to kill when he walked to his car, or was it impulse? Could anyone have stepped in earlier to prevent the escalation? Would Tamara still be alive if someone, anyone, had simply called police at the first sign of trouble? The most haunting question remains unspoken: who's next? Because somewhere right now, another neighborhood dispute is brewing. Another argument between children is escalating. Another adult is getting involved when they should walk away. Another person is reaching for a gun instead of a phone. Next time you see a fight breaking out in your neighborhood, remember Tamara Plummer. Remember her unborn child. Remember her 4 children left behind. Is the person who steps in to stop it might be the next to die. And the person who pulls the trigger might be someone you never expected, a neighbor, a parent, someone just like you.